It might be a few minutes early, but I want people to find it and log on, because I do like to start promptly at the time we ask. Right? Right. I gotta find it myself. Boop. There we go. Oh, it's gonna get all in the water bucket if I leave it there, right? Get all water bucket cold. I think we'll be able to see everything that needs to happen there. No problem. As long as people participate, we're good. Anyway, we're gonna give people a couple minutes to show up. Did you folks watch the video that I posted? The beginning first day pottery class video thing on YouTube's? Because that is pretty much what I'm gonna do here, so that you can ask questions. Good. Anyway, it's not like you're watching this for the first time. Hopefully you might have some questions, or that you tried some of the things in it and that you'll be able to ask during this. So it is now 7 o'clock. We will start in earnest here. So after watching the video and doing this live, as you ask questions, I'll have enough clay to go through them and hopefully physically answer the questions, as long as being able to talk about the answers to the questions. And then we'll go over the assignment for next week, right? Or whatever you want to call this. So we have all the tools we need today: wire tool and a needle tool. That's it. Those are the only two things we need. Well, and your reel and your bucket and all that. We have, and I didn't ball up the clay because I want to go over this part too, because it's important-ish. This is how I get my clay now, because it's reclaimed. This is a chunk of clay out of the pug mill. You will probably have a block if you're buying your clay. If you have a block, you'll want to stand that block up on end, cut down a couple inches, and then cut that couple inches into 4. So you end up with a chunk of clay about this big, right? That's about 1.5 pounds or so, maybe 2 pounds of clay. And from that square, all you gotta do is pound it into a ball. Now, with the weather the way it is here in the States, I need to make sure I keep my balls covered up, or else they will dry up. And if they dry up at all on the outside, they're gonna be harder to throw. So I'm gonna make sure I put my balls in a bag or in a bin or something so that they don't dry up. And I'm gonna make them fresh. Fresher balls seem to work better than older balls. If you make a whole bunch of balls up and then you walk away and come back in an hour or two, you might have to wedge them. It's not the end of the world. It's more work than you needed to do. If you wedge up, if you have a bunch of balls and they're in a container, they're all covered up, and you let it go for a week, they're going to be a lot harder to use. There are going to be a lot of inconsistencies. And really, throwing is about knowing where you've messed up and not messing up again. So if you know not to do that, then hopefully you won't do it. Or if you do it, you'll be like, oh, well, these balls are a week old. Because it really does make a difference. You know, I can watch somebody struggle with a ball of clay and go, well, when did you make that ball? And they're like, oh, a couple weeks ago. I was like, well, that's your problem. Make the balls when you need them. No, I don't. For this size ball of clay, you don't need to wedge. If, you cut it off the block and it's one that hasn't been frozen or anything, yeah, you don't have to wedge it. A lot of people will say you have to wedge it. I don't think you have to wedge it. Okay, so we got our ball of clay on the wheel. Now, let me do this over again so I can be really clear about this. Don't throw it on the wheel. You don't have to like slam it. I don't know where that ever came from either. You can set it in the middle. Boop. That's it. Then you'll want to hit it twice. Not 3 times, not once, twice. Boop. Boop. If you're a teacher, this is a really easy way to tell if people are listening or not. Because you don't even have to listen to them, or you don't have to watch them as it. You can just listen. If somebody's over there, you know they're not doing it right. You want to hit it twice. All right. Now, if it's not perfectly in the middle, that's okay. We want to get it close. This is close enough, and I'm going to wet it. You're going to have to reclaim it, sort of. And I'll go over the reclaim process, not in this video, but in another one. We might get an extra video this week. So I'm going to wet it so that I form a layer of slip on my hand. Slip is slipperier than water. Once we got a little layer of slip, I'm going to push it down and at an angle, like this, so that the clay forms a seal against the wheel head, and this starts to become a cone shape. Don't try to center it yet. If you try to push laterally on this and get it in the middle, you're just going to twist it off. So I'm just going to push down and get it stuck. My hands should continue to move, and that's all right. Now it's stuck. Now we can do stuff to it. First thing is to cone up. Now, we've gone over, that I do things probably different than other people do, and that's all right. But I'm going to try to go through the very first one simply. I'm not going to go through every explanation. I'm going to do it as quick and as dirty as I can, right? So when I say cone up, we're going to go over this more. I'm going to squeeze together. The clay has no place to go but out of the top, and it should still be wiggly. I'm going to emphasize the wiggle. I'm going to make sure I push down against the wheel head at the end of that, to make sure I'm pretty much against the wheel head at the end. I'm going to wet it. Right hand goes against the wheel head. Now you can't see my elbow in the video here, but my elbow, you want to get up into your hip so that the center of the clay, the middle of your wrist, and your elbow are in a straight line. Left hand is going to go out so that it's a 90-degree angle to your right. So when I push down against the wheel head with my right, my left is going to go on top. I'm going to point my thumb towards 2 o'clock, and I'm going to push down and forward. Again, this is the quick and dirty version. We're going to go into it in greater detail. We're going to cone up again, and we're going to cone down. And we're going to repeat that process until the clay is in the middle. If the clay drags, you need to wet it again. Wetting it, now there's going to be lots of ways to wet the clay, but what I want is you to collect the slip from your hand. You'll see me do that. I'm going to wet my hand, wet that slip, and apply it again. And I'll do that in different ways, you'll see. Sometimes you'll see me go like that. I'll grab it and put it on. Sometimes you'll see me grab it, hold it with that hand, and put it on. What I'm trying to do is make sure I'm using all the stuff that's against this wheel head, because that slip is slipperier than water. And then apply that. I'm going to cone up this time, but I'm going to keep my hands against the wheel head. And I'm going to keep my hands open. You are going to have them overlap. Right, left, and push down. I'm going to do it open so you can see the clay move. Again, pressing down against the wheel head, squeeze together. The clay moves up and towards the middle. I didn't follow it up. That's a thing that a lot of people end up doing on accident. When you follow it up, that clay can also squirt out from the bottom. And that'll, uncontrolled, it'll go wherever it wants. Why do you need to cone up? Coning up and coning down, I will post a video, because I've got videos on most of this kind of stuff. I have a video on coning up and coning down and how it actually centers the clay in that beginning thing. Hi, Rachel. In that beginning, what is it? What's it called? Moron centering, and it shows why. But yeah. So then down, I'm going to do it with my hands open again. You would have it, again, left over right, thumb on top, but I'm going to do it open so you can see it move. So I'm going to push down. You see it go forward, and it drops into my right hand, and then let go slowly. What we want is something that's gumdrop shaped. If you make it too flat, you'll get a volcano. Yep, with bigger balls of clay, you're going to come off the wheel head. But pretty much anything 2 pounds and under, you're going to stay right against the wheel head. So cone up, cone down. And what you want is at the end, this ball of clay to no longer wiggle. If this is wiggly, nothing else after this is going to go well. It's going to go poorly. It's going to be no bueno. So I can look at my ball of clay and know that it's centered. You might have a harder time in the beginning to know that it's centered. What I end up doing is looking past the piece, and if it's going like this, it's not centered. I'm going to uncenter this some. You can see, like if I stick my finger close, it goes back and forth to my finger. That's not going to be helpful. I want it to be right in the middle. Now, if you spend a whole hour centering a piece of clay, that's better than having it not centered and pulling it and messing it up. Because you're going to mess it up if it's not centered. This is step numero uno. This is the important part. This is the one that if you wreck all your clay and you're working on this, that's all right. Especially the first week. All right. So it's sort of in the middle here, right? Yeah, it's pretty centered. So I'm going to take and open it up now. 2 steps in opening it up. You've got two parts of our hands here. We're going to make a hot dog bun with our right hand. So a hot dog bun is 2 buns, right? We got 2 sides of the bun. They're still stuck together, and they're not like you ripped them in half or anything. My other part is going to be my thumb on my left hand. That is going to be the hot dog. They are going to go together. Nobody puts a hot dog in a hot dog bun like this. We use this analogy so you don't do that. And you don't do this, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. It's this. Real easy. Boop. Right there. Right in the buns. You're going to put your left hand around the clay, and that's going to help index it to the pot, to the clay that's already there. And you're going to have your arms on your body or your legs. I'm going to push down with the point of my middle finger. Right at the corner there. Boop. I'm going to go in a little bit, and if it starts to drag, I'm going to slowly let go. I'm going to collect my slip, put it on, grab some water, and I want to maintain pushing down with the side of this finger. That's really the only thing coming in contact. There is a little bit with my thumb and stuff pushing on this top edge, so it doesn't roll. I'm going to go down until I'm 1/3 of an inch from the bottom. Now, that is when we're going to use our needle tool. You're going to hold it so that you're kind of like this. So when I push down, boop, I touch the wheel head and I run my finger down and I lift up. You want it to be that thick. It's 1/3 of an inch. If you're into carpentry, it might be closer to 11/30 seconds for you, if that helps. Yeah, totally. You got to say the boops. You got to boop it. If it's 1 inch thick, you can go down further. If you have nothing, then you're at the bottom. You can continue the process, but you want to try to not do that. In the beginning, if you err on the side of too thick, you can always make it a little bit further. Now, I have stayed right in the middle. If you're back too far, you're going to end up with a nipple in the middle. If you're too far forward, it's going to be building up on your nail, and you're going to be not with a nice, even in the bottom, right? Okay, so we get it wet, inside and out, top to bottom. And then we're going to take our hot dog, and we're going to, boop, pull it out of the buns. So now we just have buns. Oh no. We're going to take those buns, and we're going to turn them on the side. So now our buns are face down, and we're going to put it in the middle here, and we're going to push towards 3 o'clock. We're not going to pull back. We're not going to push forward. We want to push over. And I'll go over why next ball of clay. So I'm going to start in the middle. We're going to go over. I'm pushing, you can see, with my left hand on my fingers. And we want to go about the size, and I don't have a regular size sponge in my studio anymore, about the size of your sponge in the bottom. Should be that little red or that little yellow sponge. It should be that big in the bottom. You go wider than that, you're going to have issues. You go smaller than that, you're going to have issues too. Keep it about the sponge. Now, I don't compress clay. No, I know this is horrible. It's a real mess. I don't compress. We'll go over why in other things, but you don't have to go back and forth. And it's fine. If it's flattish, you're good. I'm going to collect. You see, I'm collecting the slip off my hands, collecting the slip off the back, get my hand wet, touch all the surfaces inside out, top to bottom. It is really important now, from everything else, that all the surfaces are lubricated. It's been important up till now, but now it's really important. If you got a sticky spot when you pull, it's going to twist the piece. pretty common to mess that part up. So I'm going over it a little extra. It's really wet. Okay. Everything up till now has been super easy. This becomes really hard. This is something you can practice while you're driving. You're going to take your hands and you make a C is for cookie, which is your left hand, and your crampy finger with your right. And you'll put them behind your back, and you'll bring them in front again and go C is for cookie and crampy finger. And that's a way to practice while you're driving to get what you need to pull a wall. I've been told that you shouldn't practice this while you're driving. You're doing nothing else then, right? Or you can do it while you're watching TV. So practice making your C is for cookie and your crampy finger. Just get used to that's what needs to happen. That's muscle memory you can build outside of the studio. Inside of the pot, you're going to touch with the pad of your middle finger and your ring finger. This is what's going to contact on the inside. On the outside, you're going to contact with this part here. They're going to squeeze together, just like that. Boop, right across from each other. My left thumb is going to be on my hand. That's way these are working together. If they're not working together, then they're all over the place, and we don't want them all over the place. Melissa asks, how much pressure do I need when I open that way? Not a lot. None of the time that we're pushing on the clay are we pushing really hard. Push a little bit and let the wheel spinning do the work. And we're gonna go into this more. I'm gonna talk about all this even more on the next ball of clay. I'm gonna see if cookie crampy finger. I'm gonna push down against the wheel head with my right hand. Inside, I'm gonna start right at the bottom, squeeze together, and as I squeeze together, I start to move up. As I move up, I want to move towards the middle, and as I move up and towards the middle, I want to slowly release the pressure and let go. What you don't want to do is pull right through the top. If you do, it's the first bowl of clay, no big deal. If you're standing, I didn't have a whole lot of luck standing, and that's mostly because of my left hand. The way the splash pan hits and is in the way, and getting my arm where I needed to be, standing didn't work for me. But maybe it'll work for you. If it's not against your leg, you're going to try to push it against your body. The wheel is at the highest speed in centering. As we go, we slow the wheel down. So this is about half speed. This is full speed. I was about half speed. Your speed is going to change. I'm going to wet it inside and out, top to bottom. I'm going to start C is for cookie on the bottom, crampy finger on the outside. I'm going to squeeze together and pull up again. I'm going to do this again because there's things that I'm not talking about yet. But in a beginner class, I just want to get that first one done and then hand it over to them. Make sure it's wet, inside and out, top to bottom. Start at the bottom, pull up. Now our goal for the first piece of clay that we have here is to pull it till we wreck it. There's no point in keeping these because keeping them limits our practice. So make sure you keep wetting inside and out, top to bottom, and pulling it until you wreck it. No, you can keep trying. I mean, until you've got just a nub at the bottom, you can keep playing with that clay. No point in tossing it while there's still room to practice. Okay, so now I have wrecked it. That's the goal. We win. Hi, Laura. From this point of winning now, we want to remove the clay in the way that is most economical right now and in the future. Yeah, left hands aren't that smart to begin with. Well, unless you're left-handed, then they're smarter. But yeah, I don't have as much familiarity on working standing up, and I try not to pretend to know stuff that I don't really know. So I don't know that that much, but you can try pushing against your arm, and if you do show yourself doing it, I can still spot stuff and ways you could work on standing or bracing that would help. A lot of people back their wheel up to a wall so that they're against the wall to push. All right, so from this point, we're going to cut it off. Now, if it's really squished down, cutting it off is just going to be an act of removing it from the wheel. If it's not cut all the way, or not messed up all the way, you can cut it in half. Oh, well, you could cut it in half and look at the wall and the bottom and all that. And then you're gonna take your clay. You're gonna try to get as much water out of it as you can, so that it's less hard to reclaim. You know, kind of wring it out, and then set it aside. Now, I've done this in a way that I have not messed up my little round circle of clay here. Do not draw a smiley face on it. Don't wipe it with your hand. This chunk of clay here is the best thing for your next ball to stick to. And because it's round, it's easy to find the center. Okay, so we're gonna take our clay, we're gonna put it in the middle, hit it twice. See, it's already a little more already. We're gonna get it wet. So, as I'm getting it wet here, I'm gonna take a slight pause, because I know you people haven't had a chance to throw with this yet. So I'm gonna pause a second, and I'm gonna let you ask some questions. Can you see more of my wheel instead of the water bucket? I think so. But there's not, you're seeing the action part. I put the wheel at the top there, because a lot of the times when people are on a mobile, the words are over here where the bucket is. How do you take water off old clay? Well, we'll deal with that later in the week. At the end here today, I'll talk about putting it in the bucket and covering it up and all. But for now, you're just going to collect it. So we're good on question time then? Oh, that's not that big of a deal. This is the top. Hi, Jess. Okay. So we're going to do that again, except we're going to go into greater detail. Push down, get it stuck, right? And getting it stuck, I'm running my pinky, my finger, or my other finger down against that edge, just to make sure it seals up well. Again, grabbing that slip, down against the wheel, center of the clay, middle of my wrist and my elbow in a straight line, left hand, 90 degrees, push down against the wheel and squeeze together, and spread it out the top. Wet it. You got to keep right against the wheel head then. You tend to pull it off when I'm pulling the bottom towards 3. Like when you're flattening out the bottom. No, you don't want to brace the side. You want to let it move. When you brace the side, people end up making it too thin in that corner, and then you pop the whole thing off. I wonder if that's what you're doing. So it's coned up, center of the clay, middle of my wrist and my elbow in a straight line with my right hand still. Left is going to go on top, point it towards 2, push down and forward and into my right. Got to make sure the right hand stays against the wheel head so that the clay doesn't squirt out and go wherever it wants to. And if you get proficient at this, you can do it all in one motion. Coning up, coning down, coning up. Or you can stop at cone down, let go, wet it, cone up, stop, wet it, cone down, stop, and wet it. Whatever you do, let go slowly. So now it's in the middle. Check it, feel it, it's good. How do you create an air bubble? So air bubble, there's a couple different ways people make air bubbles. One is pushing too hard in one direction. So if your wrists are together and you're pushing away from the wheel, or away from your body, across the wheel, you can actually lift up one side of the clay and let something get underneath like air, which will give you a bubble. Otherwise, it's coning down too far. Like if you cone down too far and you make it flat on top like this, it's really hard to cone up without getting a volcano. And if you get a volcano, you can trap air in there. To get rid of that volcano, I'm going to push down on the side until the middle becomes the high point again. Right? And I'm going to cone up and cone down. I'm going to slowly let go. Nope, did you just hear it? I think we just crossed wires there, Maria. It's from flattening it too far down. If you go down too far, it'll always make a volcano. So just stay at gumdrop. And this is when we sing our song. This is when we sing the song. We go from gumdrop to candy corn. Do. Which, if we could draw a little picture, we go from gumdrop, which is a hemisphere. Can we see that? To candy corn. That's all. Boop, 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 boop. So we go from gumdrop to candy corn. And we just go back and forth from those two until it is centered. Lots of volcano makers. It's pretty common. And it's such an easy thing to fix. You just want to make sure it's round on top and not too flat. Pretty easy. So I'm going to get a rounded ball on top. If you're getting a rounded ball on top, you're just squeezing someplace below here. So if you're coning up and you start to squeeze with like a finger, you're gonna get a little pawn or something. And kind of push that down without messing it all up. Yeah, no junior mint. Okay, so we're back to opening with the hot dogs now, right? So we're gonna take our finger and our thumb, we're going to wrap around, legs brace, stay in the middle, and we're going to push down until we get a V started, a shallow V. We're going to wet it. We want to keep it in a V shape. We don't want to drill a hole, because if you drill a hole, it's really hard to stay in the middle. If it's too flat, it's going to be hard to flatten out the bottom. So we want to stay in that kind of 90-degree V shape, so that you end up with a I don't know how I get a V. And measure. Stop the wheel. Boop. And make sure you're at a 1/3 of an inch. Verify every time. Yep, seeing it the second time will often, because you've got more practice, allow you to pick up things that you didn't get the first time. Wet it inside and out, top to bottom. Now we're going to flatten out that bottom, turn it on its side, support my left with my right. We do that this way. So we don't pull back towards ourselves. We don't put our thumbs in and stuff, because when we do two things at the same time, when you do opposing, it's really hard to control. This way, when we've got our fingers down like this and I turn them on their side, as I go over, this is slowly and incrementally engaging the clay. And as long as I maintain the depth that I started with in the middle, it is really easy to open up evenly. Uh-oh. Is there a way to squeeze clay back into the floor if it's too thin? Nope. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Just finish that bottle of clay up, cut it off, and reclaim it. You don't, and you will, because I can't stop anybody. But I'm pretty sure people are going to, if they do get a hole, take some clay and try to put it in there and fill it up. And all that's doing is delaying the issue. It'll show up later on. And if it doesn't show up, great. But it's more important to do it right and continue to try to do it right than it is to fix things. Well, you might just be trying to push too hard. I mean, if you saw how fast my wheel was spinning and how slow I was moving over, it's a little bit of pressure at a time. It's not a lot. Oh, but it could be too hard. It could be too hard. So we're wetting it inside and out, top to bottom. Again, the hard part. C is for cookie, cramp your finger. C is for cookie. I want to make sure it's curved. I want to make sure I'm pushing with the pads of my fingers. This becomes really messed up when I watch people, especially when they're learning. They do all sorts of crazy finger things. They got it going over. They're doing this. They're holding sponges. Oh no, not sponges. They're doing all sorts of things. All you need is your fingertips, boop, 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 and here. And I'm going to touch the clay. I'm going to get it just a little bit of a wall. Just a little bit of a wall. I'm going to slip it up. When I get my hands dirty, so you can see the physical contact that my fingers are making as I'm touching the clay. And I'm going to go just like that. Boop. Okay, I'm going to let go. And you can see that it's hitting right there on my pointer finger, or my middle finger, and I'm not having a whole lot of contact with my ring finger yet. Right there on my middle finger. On my crampy finger side, I'm hitting here and then up my finger. If you're pushing on the outside and you're too far down like this and you're only hitting here, you're going to end up ripping little pieces of clay off. You want to keep it sideways. Okay, we got questions. That's good. Why the crampy finger versus the fingertip? Well, pretty much all the things that I'm showing you to do, we're trying to eliminate as many joints as possible. Joints are a loss of control. It's another thing to have to think about, another thing to manipulate, and another thing that the clay can push on. So if we have a fingertip, we've got an additional, all these extra little points that we had to push with. You know, there's this joint, this joint, this joint, and you know, it's further away from what we can anchor. Now, what moves our fingers here are these little muscles down in your arm. And you can wiggle your fingers and see them flex here. They're not really huge. The further we push down, or the further we push away from our hand, the harder it is to apply that pressure. And it's, so we've got less control, more fatigue, and harder to control. Less control? Yeah, less control and harder to control. So in reducing how far we're pushing, we're eliminating some of that and how we push. So we're pushing this way, we're pushing laterally that way. And our fingers don't flex all that well that way. So if we push this way, there isn't a lot of flex, we don't have to use a lot of strength. This is my left, this is my right. So with it squished up like that, I get a little place that holds slip to re-lubricate as I go. I have a wide area to apply pressure that is squishy. It's squishy and enough that I don't rip the clay. Also, in this way, I can use my thumb later on. This is not quite the beginner thing, but it's something that we're going to add later on. We're going to use my thumb as an outrigger to stabilize and orient my hand to the angle that it's at, which with fingertips is a lot harder because we're further away again. Also, on the inside, if we have them anchored like this, they're about the same height. Boop, boop, boop. Fingertips are not. Well, it doesn't have to be, and you know, I wouldn't call them arguments. I've had enough discussions with left-handed people, and I've had enough of them with my students, that there are a few different kinds of left-handed people. There are militant left-handed people, that this is a right-hand world and everything is against us and I'm going to turn the wheel the other direction, I'm going to throw that way, which is fine. But to do it because they feel that it's uncomfortable this way versus this way isn't the right answer, because it feels stupid no matter which hand you're working with. We're using both hands equally. At no point in any of the process that we do while throwing is the left hand away from or not being utilized with the right and vice versa. So I can flip, and it doesn't sound as nice, but we can flip the wheel in the other direction. And I can do all those same steps, but it takes me a little more because I got to think about it. But C is for cookie, crampy finger, anchor, squeeze together, and move up. Now I am not ambidextrous. I'm just following those same rules. And it can be done. I'm just not as trained this way. So it takes me a little bit more. And as a teacher, this is how I taught myself how to teach throwing, is by flipping the wheel. When it comes to tool usage, yeah, there's a big freaking difference. And I give my left-handers sort of a decision that they can do everything they want in whatever direction they want, but I really want them to try it going in this direction first. And when it comes to trimming, if we flip it, that's okay. But I found that I am a lot more effective as a teacher with the wheel going this direction, in terms of me being able to help and correct and everything. Okay, so we kind of got a little ahead of this ball of clay in terms of the shape. I want you to make sure that you're coning and going up towards the middle when you pull. If you go out, it ends up being a big issue. But we're going to spread it back out so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. With it out, we need to bring it back in. And to bring it back in, we're going to wrap all the way around. We're going to kind of make a funnel shape with our hands. We're just going to rotate our hands towards the middle, trying to keep it round. Going to wet it. Inside and out, top to bottom again. Well, I mean, I get it. There are a lot of things that just aren't made for left-handed people. And that can be pretty frustrating. I would imagine I would be frustrated. See this cookie, crampy finger. Squeeze together and move up. Now on this one, I want to talk a little bit more about the rate at which we go up. If you go up too fast, that the rate at which you pull becomes really wide. I'll do a bad one here. If they're like an inch apart, it's going to be really hard to throw things. If they're too tight, you could go all the way through your pot. You want to make sure that you're pulling so that they're about a half or less than a half inch, more like a quarter inch apart. Yeah, if you go back and watch the replay, I'm scraping the slip off the wheel head, I'm grabbing some water, I'm putting it inside and out. I'm going to try to fix that now. Oh well. And then pull it till you wreck it. You don't worry about wetting it too much. Not at all. Forget that that's even possible. Because there are a lot more issues that come from not being wet than being wet. And when you start becoming paranoid about how much water you're using, then it's a mess. You start you start rationing it and putting a little bit on, and it does not make a difference. You just get it wet, it all wet, and work. Back when I was a kiddo, there was somebody I used to argue with on the internets that used to throw dry. Like that was his big thing. That he didn't use any water or he used very little water. And it's like, well, in the end, his pots weren't really all any better than mine, and it took him 3-4 times as long. It's like, well, what's the benefit? It's because I didn't use water. And not using water can be just a gimmick sometimes. Yeah, I would stop and wet it. Yep, if you catch a dry spot, just re-wet it. If you feel a bubble, ignore it. Don't pop it. Don't try to get it. Just ignore it. Hopefully you don't have one in the next one. And if you do have an air bubble, sometimes they just work themselves out. If you try to pop it and you poke a little hole and you're like fiddling, now you just messed up the whole pot, and it's probably going to wiggle and wobble and you'll have a thin spot. Just ignore the bubble if you can. Goal width for a cylinder wall. There isn't one. I know that's frustrating, right? You might be able to cut it off and go, I want it just like that. And I'm not done with this one, but we'll cut it off now, right? That mainly what we want is it to be tapered. It does not. You people, you want an even wall top to bottom. No, you don't. No, you don't. You want it thicker at the bottom as you go up. Just like a tree, like a dam, everything needs more at the base than it does at the top because the top isn't supporting everything above it. So it can be tapered. Make it thicker at the bottom. Don't make it super thicker at the bottom, but it should be thicker at the bottom than at the top. Yes, we didn't talk about that yet, but bubbles do not cause explosions. Bad firing causes explosions. It's never the bubble's fault. Ever. Ever, ever. So if you do get your wheel head messy, you will have to use a tool. I know you said you only needed a wire tool and a needle tool, but if you get it messy, scrape it off with something so you're back to a clean, dry wheel. So that is pretty much the lesson. Again, it's a reiteration of the video that I had you guys watch on the YouTubes, the beginning throwing video. Next week's assignment, right? And what I'll end up doing is I will make another post after this that'll give the assignment. It'll have the link to the first video, and it'll have a link to the second video. The second video is more on centering. And that, when I say more on, it doesn't mean me as a moron in centering. It's just additional thoughts on centering, in which you can watch and that we will discuss the week after. In terms of assignment, we have a pretty modest goal, right? This is a pretty good one. This is simple, not really stressful. 4 balls that you have thrown, messed up, and cut in half or cut off the wheel. Just show me 4 chunks of broken clay, because that is the goal, is to wreck the clay. The goal is not to make a thing. I will not be proud of you if you have a perfect cylinder, because that means you stopped before you wrecked it. I want you to get to the point where you're wrecking things and it's okay to wreck it, that you don't feel bad about it, that you're not sad that you wrecked a piece of clay. Wreck it so that you get used to that, so you take chances, so you learn. If you're trying to make things, you're not going to learn stuff. So don't show me your achievements, show me your failures. Well, they are the achievements. You get what I'm saying? So, take those 4 piles of clay that you have, and you're going to take them and you're going to put them in your bucket. I've got a 5-gallon bucket next to me here. I'm going to pop them in there and try to keep them flat. Like, don't like pack them in, but what you don't want is pieces sticking up, because they can dry up and get harder. And then put a cover on it. While you're in the studio, maybe open it up, kind of squish it around, and then cover it back up. What you don't want to do is just leave your bucket to dry up, because as soon as you have a hard spot, it's going to be a pain in the butt to reclaim it. Okay? Well, I try to give good advice. It's what I wish somebody would have told me when I was starting, and I didn't, and it took me a heck of a lot longer to figure it out. You guys have any questions then? I have a couple more balls of clay. I see people are leaving already. That's cool. But I have a couple more balls of clay. This is the bonus stuff for people that stay. We'll do this every time. Bonus stuff. Don't talk about it to other people. We'll do some circusy stuff. So after we get it centered here, I'll do some things that are a little weird to kind of enforce the ideas that I'm showing you, right? Got it there. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to do the first thing. Except I'm going to pull it so that I'm pushing down instead of up. And this is a great. Just going to get the wall started there. A great example of how clay is moving, but it's not something that's a great demo for new people to just watch and try to emulate, right? Oh, I'm missing stuff. No. I will talk about the reclaim towards the middle of the week, or maybe at the beginning of the class next week. If the clay does dry out, we can re-soak it. I'll deal with that next week. Reclaim is its whole other video. Weighing the clay, about a fist size. You don't need to weigh it yet. Well, bubbles and lumps do make it harder to center, but it's not impossible. We want to avoid them. We don't want to deal with them afterwards while they're in the clay. And the way we center, coning up and coning down, will actually work out a lot of the bubbles. Some people actually call coning up and down wheel wedging. So the way I've said to pull is to have those opposing forces squeeze to move the clay up. There are other places and instances where, like I was taught that you want to make a kind of a bend in the clay to pull, because you're like lifting the clay up. You're physically pulling on the clay up, and really, that's yes, Carrie, we can reclaim that clay and we can reuse it. Yeah, but that's not the case. The way I'm showing you how to throw, we're actually squeezing. The clay has no place to go but up and out. So when I push here and I move down, you can see that the clay is going up, even though my hands are going down. Because it's displacing the clay up. It's not pulling the clay up. You might not be using enough water, yeah. After next week, that people have had a chance to throw some, and I'll put this description in the kind of the assignment post, is I forgot what I was talking about. Videos. You know, like after that, we can do, you know, somebody can post a video. Right now, there's like 3,000 members. So we might have to figure out the best way to have people post videos so that there aren't, 30 videos for me to have to watch. But as we get a little further in, people are going to end up posting a video of their mistakes and what they're doing so that I can help. Or if we get really good at all this, people can live stream with me. Like right now, you might have a button that says, hey, ask to join the live stream. And then I would push accept, and then we would be throwing together at the same time. But yeah, I'm going to show that again, Betty. You ready? Start at the top. I'm going to squeeze together. I'm going to move down. And the clay goes up. Nope. It's not full speed. We're going to wet it and do it again, right? So why am I doing that? Just as an example to show a lot of, because the person who taught, or I guess showed me how to go, is that you need to make like this bump. You need to get underneath it to pull. And all that does is unnecessarily stretch out the clay and cause more surface area and more torque, and you end up getting little twisties and stuff. All we want to do is displace it to make it go places. Basically, I'm trying to make some reclaim here so that we can work together. There's no, don't go top to bottom yourself. It was just an explanation. I got one more ball of clay. Is there something we need to see? Nope, they're right across from each other. No, I don't throw with my feet anymore. Can you show how to wash your hands using the bucket? Using buckets. At the end here? Yeah, when I throw this last one, I'll clean up with just my bucket and some clean sponges. I guess some things we didn't talk about is like the wheel being level and things like that. You don't need to. This one I'll just try to throw as tall and thin as I can, right? Another circusy kind of thing. Probably keep it just the size of your sponge in the bottom. No bigger is necessary for this amount of clay. For where we are in our learning. Later on you might do it. The wheel does not need to be level. And to reiterate that, to make that real, we will unlevel my wheel. There. It's not level. You saw my pot was even before. It's still even because the level doesn't matter. To keep the top level, or let's call it flat, to keep the top flat, I pushed on the top as I pulled up that first couple times. If for some reason it messes up, which we haven't talked about yet, but we would end up cutting the top off. It's something that we'll talk more about next week when we start using more tools. Woo. Debbie, when I'm done with this one, I'm gonna make a post, and you can post it in that on that post. Left hand is not anchored at all. It has to be well, no, it's okay. Here, we'll cut this one in half. We'll get the water off, we'll put it down, and we can talk a little bit about wheel not being level, because it's one of the favorite things for me to talk about. Because it's the most confusing. Because there's some things, right? It shouldn't okay, so we can all agree, if we got something here that can prove that this wheel is unlevel. I'm looking for something round. Sorry. So, it is not level. It's fine that way. It is not level that way, right? Okay. So with it not being level, if we take something, look at something that's already made. Wash my hands for a second. Oh, we'll get something manufactured, because that is the big key here, right? Something that is perfectly flat and round and level. We got our solo cup. Now, if we centered, well, we'll do it right side up. If we centered our solo cup, ooh, it's hard to center a solo cup when there's no weight to it. Let's imagine that's centered. Now it is flat because it is spinning, right? It's spinning. So because it's spinning, and we do everything with it spinning, there is no level. While it's spinning, and I said, mark the high side of the wheel. Well, it's this side, but it's the high side and the low side because it's spinning. Right? So if we were to cut this off the wheel and then put it on any other surface, it's also going to be level because we're working from a round plane we're working from a plane that's spinning. Okay. Pushed it up against the thing now. Okay. Does that make sense then? So if we throw something, we pull it, and we're indexed to the top, and we cut the top off, And it's spinning true because we've cut the top. No matter where we put it, it's also going to be level. And I know that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right, Janet? But I hope that visualization helps, because at no point are we cutting the top off while it's stopped and using a level to do it. If we were doing that, we would have an issue. Well, some people say, well, once you cut it off and you put it on a board and you put it back on the wheel upside down to trim it, well, then it won't be level. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. What's going on here then? Because this is level now. Oh, so the next time somebody goes, well, you've got to have your wheel level, and they say you need to call in NASA, and they need to send a scientist out with sensors and everything, and then they level the wheel and they certify it, that's not actually necessary. Yep. I never level my wheel. I have a level. I don't use it. All the workshops that I've taught, I never leveled the wheels, and people don't have an issue because it doesn't have an effect. So next time you see somebody go, well, your wheel has to be level, you can go, not really. Or you don't have to. You can just tag me and I'll tell them. Here, we're gonna pull that down and get it back to some place of sort of levelness, so my tools don't fall off. Okie dokie. Okay, so clean up, because that was asked. I've got my 2 big sponges right here, ready to go. I will clean off all my tools first. Yeah, I put it, here's my bucket. Here's my stuff in my bucket, right? I'm just gonna put the cover on it. Tomorrow, when I'm in the studio, I'll uncover it for a little bit and then cover it back up. What we don't want is to leave it uncovered for a long period of time and let parts of it get dry. Well, everything right now is clean. Like, I don't have contamination. None of it's been on the ground. I don't have boogers in it and styrofoam or hair or anything. Pretty much everything is just clay right now. And what I'll do, I'll wipe my bat off here, clean my wheel head off, I'll wipe this down, and then I'll push all this down to the bottom so that when I do go to dump it, it doesn't make a huge mess, and I'll just pour it back in my water bucket. Slip is a little better than water. If you let it go too long, the little anaerobic bacteria in the bottom of the bucket start eating your skin cells, and they make fart smells. So you gotta worry about that a little bit. And I just wipe it out with my sponge. I'll try to post a photo of you later when I pull. Always goes for a bell shape. Because you're not moving. As soon as you start to pull, you gotta move. Is it Kelsey? If you're not moving, then that finger that's on the outside pushing just keeps pushing until it makes that too much of a dent. You gotta push and move. About once a week, maybe. Depends on how much I'm throwing. If I'm, throwing 25, 30 pieces a day, I might do it every couple days. And the stuff that's left in here, I have a pug mill and I've got dry stuff and everything, and I got the space and the time to reclaim this. So this goes up, I dump this into my dry stuff bucket. So I've got dry things and I pour this in. And eventually it kind of all evens out. But that's a lot of time and energy to do that. Especially when you don't have le pug mill. No, I don't like working with bleach. We have enough problem with our hands rotting and becoming, chapped and everything. And bleach is pretty basic. Like, it's actually a base. And I know it's only a couple drops, but it's also just little anaerobic bacteria. As soon as they're exposed to oxygen, they die. And I'm not so worried about them. They don't make my clay any better, despite people's insinuation of such things. They just smell. So I've been using my one sponge. Now I've got my other clean sponge, and I can go back with Mr. Clean Sponge and wipe that down one last time. Wipe down my splash pans and put them back together. Now this is the no sink way of doing it. You know, if you do have a sink, you might do a little bit better job sponging it off, rinsing it off. But we're looking for the no sink way, right? All little surfaces. No, like so. This bucket right here. Tomorrow when I go to throw, I'm gonna use it. The next time I'm gonna throw, I'm gonna use it. And today, before this class, it was sludge all the way up to the top here. And all I did was I have a bin over that way that has, you know, I don't know, let's say it's a 10-gallon bin. And when I have trimmings or dry chunks of clay around the studio that aren't contaminated by anything, I toss them in there. And then I just put, boop, my slop. You know, if there's a little layer of water, I pour the water off, but I pour all the chunkies and all the good bits in there into that bucket. I'm not worried about killing the bacteria. They're fine. You guys are fine. Like, I don't mind you. You're my little bacteria friends. That, you know, it's just a little smell. My spectrum, but they're so hard to unlock from each other. Suggestions. You got to push down on the little tabs. So, they're the little ears. I don't know if we can get a little closer here. Maybe I can show you the little ears on the side. Can we see them? Can you see that? Sort of. I'm just going to push down with both of them at the same time, and it comes off. So easy to put it on. You go, boop, underneath. Just push down. Boop. So mine I have with the big side facing me and the small side away. That might help. I don't have a bucket system really. I have a full sink and hot water and everything in my studio, but I try to clean up better. I try to clean up. Yeah, if you try to just pull it, it's hard. You got to push down on those little ears. But I don't want to, you know, I'm on a dry well, so it's kind of like a septic, but not really. It's close enough to one that the less that goes in, the better. Yeah, my little bacteria friends. Don't hurt them. No. Yeah. Well, in the summertime, it's a little better. In the wintertime, you know, it gets cold. And I might dump off the water because the water will settle, or water will kind of float to the surface and the clay will settle. I'll dump that off and I'll pour hot water in so that it's warm enough. The Whispers, ooh, there's two different Whisper splash pans. One of them have these little gripper things, and they kind of snap in, and you just got to pull it off. But yeah, it's a little different. The Brent's, this is a Brent splash pan. It's just the black one because I think they look better. What kind of pug mill? I have a bunch of them. I'm a pug mill hoarder, I guess. The ones that I'm using right now in my studio are a Peter Pugger VPM 20. So it's the largest stainless steel one that they make, and it's still a little on the small side. And I have a Walker, which is an older one that it's really scary to use, but it mixes clay, like dry bits and crunchy stuff. It makes it better than any other pug mill because it's the only one that has opposing fins. They are hard, yeah, but they're doable. You just want to make sure you don't break those little grabber things because then they just become loose. It's one of those things that you hear, you know, like, oh, you want to save all your slip because you're going to lose the smallest particles of clay. Man, I don't think so. That's not a thing. If that was a thing, I wouldn't have clay because all of the clay that I'm using is reclaim, and all of it is stuff that we didn't save the slop for. And it's stuff, some of this has been reclaimed 4 or 5 times. And yeah, I save some of this, but I don't save all of it. Okay, what do we got? Is it hard to change the belt on a wheel? Not at all. Different wheels are different. You know, they're not all exactly the same. Let me try to tilt. Nah, I can't tilt this one over. You got to take off the cover. There's usually some kind of cover underneath. Some wheels are a little easier than others. Some you might have to actually move the wheel head up and off, but others are really simple. You just have to, take that cover off, make sure you have a new belt, or you can take the old belt off the wheel and then go to like a hardware store or a lawnmower repair shop, and they might have a belt that's cheaper than the belt from the place. I dumped my water bucket into my reclaim. Yeah, but it's going to be a pain in the ass. We want to try to not add more water than we have to our reclaim, because water just means we're going to have to try to remove that water later. Type of wheel that I would suggest for a beginner. I don't suggest a wheel for a beginner, really. I always want people to buy equipment once and not have to buy the next step up or 2 or 3 times that. And I go that with everything. I don't like buying a beginner anything, because it just means having to buy it again later on. And I understand the price issues, and really I would say find a used one. Wait till you can get a used one, or spring for the one that you're going to use forever. It's less wear and tear on the world and moving stuff around that we don't need. And really, like, if you do end up having to buy a new one, and price is really an issue, the Shimpo VL Lite is a fine wheel. It's not the best wheel. It's a wheel that will work and last for a while. The Clay Boss has a lot of build issues. I've got one over there that I repaired this summer, and the build issues on them are a lot. There's like a lot of things going on in them that were done just so cheap that it's hard to recommend them. If you can save up and you can get the wheel that is going to be your forever wheel and that you'll love forever, a Soldner. This is a Soldner S100. It's the best wheel, or it's the best wheel for what I want in a wheel, and that's control from very slow speeds. I mean, there's not another wheel that goes this slow without jiggling. They all jiggle. They all have this. This is nice and smooth, and it goes all the way from very slow. I mean, there's not another wheel that goes this slow. They just don't. And it goes all the way to really fast, and there's no gaps, there's no spots where there isn't like a change in speed. It goes all the way through. All right, what else do we got here? Yeah, so Melissa, it is a Soldner S100. They make an S50, which is less than this, and that's a fine wheel too. If you're comparing them to a Brent, for instance, price-wise, they are as competitive as a Brent, and they're such a nicer wheel for a home studio. For a classroom where you're going to have people that don't care about your equipment, get a Brent. They're really hard to break. These would be easier to break in that, they're a nice piece of equipment, and I'd be really pissed if somebody broke my Soldner. If somebody broke my Brent, it's a freaking Brent. Like, who cares? Is there a certain type of clay and glaze that work best in certain regions of the country? So, sort of. Right now, Laguna is pretty easy to deal with. I would rather have you buy the local, find your local clay distributor, and if they're mixing their own clay, buy that clay. Find the one that's gonna fire at the range that you can fire in. I fire cone 6, or I fire cone 10 and everything. So I pick a cone 10 clay. You're probably more likely to fire cone 6. So you find a cone 6 clay. You're just gonna, hopefully it's flat and level and that it works. Sometimes they don't always work. Like, there was one picture and the wheel head was like this as it spun, which is really hard to throw on. Live on the Gulf Coast. I don't know who's down there. I'm bad at clay companies. But in terms of glaze, there are lots of glaze companies, and there are a lot of really bad glazes out on the market. And clayscapes, if you steer away from the newest glazes that, there aren't as much experience with, and you stick with the older set of glazes, there are a tremendous amount of inexpensive glazes that work really well all the time. There's some that don't, but those are some of the newer ones that just, they're trying to spread out in their glaze palette, and they're just not as awesome. Okay, but that's it. We've gone over our hour now, which is okay, but I need to go in and clean up and give the kitty his ear meds. How do you know the older ones of which ones? What did I miss? The glazes. I don't know. I need to call Don this week, and when I call Don, I'll kind of discuss what we're doing here and if maybe we can get a deal on a package, of 5 glazes or something. I can't guarantee or promise anything, but I could at least make that attempt and see if I can get you guys a little bit of a deal on some glazes that I know are going to work together. You're welcome, guys. Like Starry Night, Cream, Coastal Blue, Tim's Dark Celadon, Shadow Blue, and either Pitch Black are all nice. Like affiliate links, no. What I don't do, and you might notice on other platforms and stuff, is I don't make money when I push you to a product. Soldner isn't paying me to back their product. I believe in it because I've used them. I've tried every wheel on the market. I own, 6 Soldners of various ages, but I also own a Whisper that I can't stand because of its quirkiness and its expense and having to repair. I've got, a Clay Boss that is just one step over trash. Sorry, Clay, I'm sorry. Oh, he's all sad. I'm sorry, buddy. But, come on. There's a piece of wood glued in the pedal as the stop for the range of motion, and it's just glued in there, and people wonder why their Clay Boss wheels pedal doesn't work. And that's because that glue gets loose, and there's a piece of wood floating around inside the pedal. I'm sorry. Now he's all sad. I'm gonna have to use him tomorrow or something. If I'm going to suggest something, I don't want to suggest it because I'm getting a kickback. I'm suggesting it because I stand behind it and I believe in the product. Oh no, Maria, I know. They're so good. Don't let them hear me. Now I feel bad. I'm sorry. Oh, he's crying now. I'm going to have to take care of him. Okay, I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.